She graced our television screens for many years, playing the formidable Karabo Moroka on Generations, a character that many still call her by. And after leaving the soapie in 2007, Connie Ferguson and her husband Shona went on to start their own television company. The actors and executive producers dominated the television industry, making and starring in their own hit shows. With a blissful marriage, close-knit family and soaring careers, their lives were turned upside down when Shona Ferguson passed on in 2021. She sat down with us to talk about loss, getting back to work and future projects. Connie Ferguson, a good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for availing yourself for us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
You
look good. You look really good.
How are you? It's loaded. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm blessed. I'm moving.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe I ask in the context of, and I'm sorry to just get straight into it, right? Like, I think the last time we saw you officially anywhere, it was at the passing of your husband, and maybe that's why we ask how you're doing, how the girls are doing, how the children are doing. Yeah.
I think it's been close to 17 months now since Sho passed. It's been quite the journey. We're still going through it. Still taking one day at a time, putting one foot in front of the other. But the girls have been strong. I think as a family, we've really just been there for each other. We've cried together. We've comforted the weak when they are weak and been strong for them, and the other way around. But God has been good. I think just with prayer and having friends and family pray for us as well, we have managed to stay strong in spite of it all.
Yeah. And you know, nothing is a life-changing moment than a loss of a loved one, because it stays with you forever. It changes the core of who you are.
The thing is, we know that death is natural, right?
Yeah.
It's our way. We're all going there. We just never know when. And, you know, when you're a young couple, you're not expecting it. I mean, it's the last thing on your mind. I mean, you're dreaming together, you're planning together, you're building together, and that's literally like the last thing on your mind. That when it happens, it completely disorganizes you. Like, completely. You don't know you don't know what to feel, even. I mean, besides the pain, you literally don't know what to think. You can't see beyond that moment. And I think it took me a while being in that space of, who am I without Sho? Because, you know, he and I were so close. Like, literally joined at the hip. And, I mean, even today, just trying to live physically without him is a big adjustment. I'm adjusting daily. I mean, every day there's something that I wish I could do with him, and he's not there. And then I have to reorganize myself, adjust myself, and go, you know what, he's not here. I know he's here in spirit. I can do this. I have to keep, you know, pep talking myself. I can do this. I can do this. And yeah, a year and almost 2 years later, I'm here.
Yeah. And you know, I don't know if you would be comfortable, please, to maybe revisit that time 17 months ago when he started to fall ill. Was there an indication, you know, did you get a sense that something is wrong? Yes, we know that, you know, it was a COVID-19 related illness, but was there an indication? Did you get that sense, maybe something? Because sometimes it's like a death happening fast and you're like, oh my gosh, why? But if it's something that has been progressively coming along, you're like, okay, Mujim, what are you trying to show us?
Yeah. We both got sick at the same time. I was also very sick. And, you know, he was strong for me, and, you know, seeing how he was strong for me, I obviously thought my husband was strong, you know. And then I think I was like a week in he started getting, like his symptoms just started getting worse. I think he struggled more with his breathing than anything else. And we did little things together. We would take walks. I think I'd walk a bit further than what he could. But we tried to do everything right according to what we knew. And I don't know what happened with Sho, man. I don't know, because he was a healthy guy. Mm. So he, I think, was diagnosed on the 26th of June. On the 3rd of July, he was admitted into hospital because I think he was really struggling with his oxygen levels. And that first week was very hard for him, especially because he was such an independent person. But we both had so much faith that he was going to come out of this. It was COVID-19. We know a lot of people didn't make it, but he was strong, he was healthy, he was young. We really thought he would beat this thing. And we spoke about it all the time, that, baby, you're going to beat this thing, and he kept saying to me, baby, we're going to beat this. And it was a we thing, we're going to beat this. And then the next Friday, he was discharged. So he kind of got better. So he had COVID pneumonia. So when his symptoms improved, they discharged him the following week, Friday, after the 3rd. And that night, I mean, I think I'm still traumatized from that night. After he was discharged from hospital, because he was strong, so and he didn't like the hospital show. So to be honest, I think he also he felt strong enough to go home. I don't know exactly how he felt, but he put on the front that he was strong enough to come home. That was the longest night of my life, because we were struggling with, so I literally had to monitor his oxygen, because he was still on high flow oxygen even at home. So I couldn't treat him with the oxygen concentrate thing. So I needed the cylinders, because he was on high flow. That night he just got progressively worse. Like literally I was looking at my husband fading away in front of me. Kept calling the doctors that night to say, you know what, I'm not comfortable. I don't think this person is okay. I don't think he should have been discharged. And only the next morning did they come through and readmitted him immediately. But I think that might set him back 100 steps, really, because after that it was literally all downhill from there. It was literally all downhill from there. And then he was in hospital for a month, of which he had been intubated for 2 weeks. Yeah, so 2 weeks after being intubated, that's when we lost him. I still can't stand the sound of hospital machines, because I literally lived there. I mean, I used to go. Remember, I was also still recovering. Wow. So I wasn't strong. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. I literally lived at the hospital. So it wasn't sudden. I literally saw him, although we were hopeful the whole way and praying the whole way. And because he was a fighter, when doctors thought, okay, today you can't go, just sit with him, this might be his last day, might be his last day. So we had so many of those, might be his last day moments. And he always made it through to the next day and made it through to the next day. And that gave us hope. And because I believe so much in prayer, you know, we believed that, you know what, whatever is happening here, I don't know, God, yes, is trying to tell us something. This is probably going to be show's biggest testimony ever, you know. I mean, that I was holding on so much to that we're going through this. We have to go through this because it's a test and there's a testimony to be told from this experience. But my expectation was that it was going to be his testimony. And not me talking about the loss and how I'm dealing with it and coping with it and how the family is and how I am. This wasn't supposed to be the story.
Firstly, Pepi, and you know, like God works in such mysterious ways, where what was supposed to maybe have been his testimony, through you, the testimony and the message will reach somebody who's going through perhaps a similar situation with you and is wondering, shoo, this healing journey, where do I even begin? Because that in and of itself is something quite difficult.
Yeah, I think it's a process. It's continuous. One day you feel like you've got this, the next day you crumble. It's like, what the hell, you know. So I think grieving is ongoing. You just literally learn to live with the pain and not let it decapitate you, and not let it stop you from moving, because life has to go on, you know. I still have ambitions. I still have a company I need to run. I still want to be able to employ the number of people that we were able to employ with show and even more. You know, I still want to keep that legacy going. That there's a lot still to be done. It's just, for me, I think, unfortunate that I find myself in a position where I feel like I have to do it alone, although I have a lot of support around me. It still feels alone without Show. But I know he's my biggest angel, and I feel him a lot. I feel him a lot. I know he'll always be with me, and for me, that's very comforting. Yes, I want him here physically, because I'm used to us being like this. But he's not here, so I have to do with what I have and just know that God is God and God is good, and he would never let me suffer in vain. There has to be, I may not know the answer to that now or tomorrow or the day after, but there has to be a reason for all of this.
How did it come about that you started working together and you built together?
It didn't actually start that way. So Sho was born in Botswana. We met in Joburg. He was in IT, sales and management. So when we got married, he moved to Johannesburg, still continued with IT. But on the side, he was very interested in entertainment. So he started managing me as a side job. And I think just observing and seeing how passionate he was about the industry and actually how much he knew about the industry, I thought, you know what? I have a partner here. I have someone that can build with me. So he slowly also went into acting, had a couple of roles in different productions. And when I left Generations after I turned 40, I think for me, I wanted to take a bit of a sabbatical while we were starting Ferguson Films together. But then The Wild came about, and that was the first show that we both starred in. We were 2 years in The Wild, and then it went off air, and I think that's when, because we learned so much on that production, and just a different way of shooting soap and telenovelas. And I remember the talks that we used to have and the excitement that we would have when we were talking about what we wanted to do with Ferguson Films. And after the Wild, I think we saw the opportunity to really focus all our energies into our production company. And it coincided with the channel Mzansi Magic being launched. And they were looking for new producers, new productions. And we pitched our first drama series to Mzansi Magic Rockville. And Rockville was Mzansi's first drama series and Ferguson Films' first production ever. Sure. And that's how we started. I mean, as a pair, we were great as husband and wife, but we were great as business partners as well. He was my biggest friend,
That's so rare to hear.
Oh my God, he was my biggest friend. There was just nothing I could not do with that man. Like he made me feel that way. He made me feel like there was nothing I couldn't do. He literally made me feel like it's a pity you can't say certain words on television. But he literally made me feel like I was the world, like I was everything, and that gave me so much confidence to have not only a partner that was brilliant on his own, but that really believed in my capabilities and my brand.
When you're saying that right now, one thing that comes to mind is I can only imagine the kind of father that he was to your girls. Because when you talk about how much he loved you and how much he believed in you, I'm thinking, sure, your girls saw the blueprint, they saw the template, right, of how they should then be treated.
Yes. That's hard for them. And I know Leslie jokes about it all the time that, oh my goodness, Dad, where the hell am I supposed to find a man that is like you? So her standards are very high, and rightfully so, they should be. So I think what I'm grateful for is they know what love is because they've seen it firsthand. They know what to accept for themselves, and they know what not to. And I think they are okay with it. Not to say one cannot compromise, but they know not to settle.
I think, and then going back to when you guys were working together, I mean, you did mention that, now you have to move. You have to, in the sense of picking yourself up again, being strong enough to get back into the saddle and starting to work. How's that transition like? I mean, Hape also we hear a lot about how women should mourn, especially black women, how we should mourn and how you should be draped in whatever color and you should stay in some dark corner for over 2 years, etc. And so how is that transition getting back?
It was difficult. One, because I've always been a working woman. I've always been and I'll say a breadwinner, not because my husband wasn't the breadwinner, but, we both support extended family. We both supported extended family. So I've always been a working woman. So when Sho passed, I respect tradition. I like to observe tradition as far as is possible. And I'm deliberately using those words because I'll say the modern woman or the working woman, the working mother with all these responsibilities, we don't have the luxury of sitting at home and crying ourselves to sleep every minute of the day, sitting in dark corners. We do not have those luxuries. What I did do just for myself, and this was a self-discussion, I discussed it with my mother-in-law, that I'm going to have to go back to work soon, but I wasn't strong in the first month at all. So I took a month off work. Just nursed myself a bit. I'd lost a lot of weight. And also just, I think, to process everything that had happened. Because I think in the moments that it was happening, I was literally, because I was a part of it, I wasn't really processing anything. I was just going with it. And so just that month to process and grieve and cry and pick myself up, and there was zero strength. There was no strength at all. the month passed. I had to pluck up the courage to go back to work because we were still shooting The Queen. And when show passed, we were supposed to start shooting Kings of Joburg. All scripts were done. So literally we were supposed to go into pre-production like, I think, 3 weeks later. So I went back to set. It was, that first day was very strange. Because one, I hadn't seen my cast and crew since after the burial, because most of them came. Yes, some came to see me at home, but it wasn't the same. So I prayed so hard that morning before I went to work, just for the courage to not break down and just start the day, and more importantly, just get through the day. So I got there, they were all waiting for me, and, I could see on their faces the uncertainty of, will she be able to do it? Do you know when people are looking at you like you're so fragile, like you're about to break any moment? That was hard for me. I remember I walked in. First of all, I didn't even know if I had to say something, a little speech, because we all lost, right? We all lost. I walked in and just my tongue was tired completely. And said good morning to everybody. They were all standing there just waiting for me. And then I just said, let's work. We went on to set. We shot the first scene. After the first scene was in the can, then I called my people and we had a conversation about what had happened and me being back on work and just me reassuring them that it's tough, but I'm okay. We're going to do this, not only for show, but for ourselves as well, because that's what he would want. The show goes on, and that's where we termed that the show goes on phrase, that the show goes on. He would want us to keep our heads up and keep moving and keep working and keep the legacy going.
And it speaks to your relationship with your husband, right? And so how you mourn him is like telling us how you lived. And like you're saying, he would want you to keep your head up. We
laughed so much about and over show instead of crying over him on set, because he was such a big personality that stayed with us, and that's what everybody remembered about you. We wouldn't get through the day without talking about him. So he literally was still part of that production, just not physically being there. Because one of my directors, Andres, would go, oh, this is Bob. Show would love this, and we'd all get excited and go about how show would feel. And so he somehow, this guy is tricky, somehow managed to stay part of everything,
Sure.
even though he's not here. But, sure. He was that amazing of a person.
But even that, right, because now the Queen has come to a close now in January 2023. That must have been quite difficult.
It was hard. First of all, just our last day on our last shoot day. In fact, that final month of shoot, because then we were getting rid of so many characters, and usually when we say goodbye to a character or an actor, we would be together, right? And thank that person and wish them well and whatever, but we'd always do those speeches together. I started doing these speeches with my director, who's great. I love and adore him, but it just felt like a different space for me. It made me miss him a lot. Because now I was like, sure, I'm doing this on my own now. I'm so used to doing this with you. So the same when we filmed the very final scene of The Queen, and I had to address the crew and everybody else to say, this is the end of this, but it's not the end of us, because there will always be something else that comes up. And the whole team was like so positive and whatnot. And it's funny, I believe in signs, and the clouds just did something amazing in that moment. And for me, it said he was part of that moment, and he was there. And for some reason, it felt, after the fact, felt really good that, you know, the team was that strong on that day. Nobody was falling apart or feeling sorry for themselves, and everybody was just positive. And it gave me a lot of courage, really, to see my team like that. And then on Friday, when the final episode TX'd, it was real for me. It was like I was grieving all over again. Because this baby that I had started with show, you know, what I needed in that moment was him sitting next to me, holding my hand, us watching that final episode together, and him saying to me, "Baby, I'm so proud of what we have done." You know, and me saying to him, "You should be proud, my love." You know, I needed that physically. I know spiritually he was there, but I needed a different kind of connection with him on that day. That day was hard for me. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it.
If you can see him again, because you've mentioned seeing him in the physical, right? So if Mudimu were to grant those impossible wishes, you know, like some of us singing, if he was here and you could talk to him, what would you tell him?
So here's the thing about my husband and I. I think we were so transparent with our feelings, whether we were feeling good at the time or bad at the time. We always talked honestly to each other. And one of my biggest comforts is that nothing was left unsaid with Sean. Even when he was on his hospital bed, I remember the last time I saw him before they intubated him, that day, he had the CPAP. I don't know if you know what a CPAP mask is. It's the most horrific mask. It looks painful as hell. And just breathing through that thing seems like torture. And he had that thing, that CPAP mask. And I could tell he was struggling, you know. I was sitting at his at the end of his hospital bed, and I was just massaging his feet. And he was just looking at me, and he couldn't speak, obviously, because of that mask. And in that moment, it just came to me to say to him, "You're my soulmate." And because of that mask, it was so tight, he couldn't smile physically with his mouth, but he smiled with his eyes. And he just said, you know, like, "You're my soulmate too." That was our last physical communication. What would I say to him now? That I wasn't ready for him to go? That I still don't understand why he had to go? Thank you for teaching me to pray, because that is what has seen me through. So if you didn't have the foresight to get me into that space of believing, of trusting the Lord, honestly, I don't think I'd be here. I don't think I'd be here.
Ma'am, can I say it again? You look good. You look really, really good, because we've been following you also online, and we're seeing the work that you're putting in, and it's encouraging, right? Even for somebody who doesn't even know or have an idea of what is happening. But there is something exciting that you are working on, because you did mention earlier on that you're a working woman, and it's something that it was a pet project for him,
yes,
as you understand it, and it became even bigger than him, and now you are continuing, right, with it. So tell us a bit more about that.
So I said earlier that before he passed, we were supposed to start Kings of Joburg 2. Scripted, everything was ready, all the scripts finalized, approved, like literally ready to go into pre-production. And then we got sick and we lost him. So we paused everything. I didn't even know whether I'd have the strength to continue with KOJ, because it was a show project, man. It was, he was so passionate about this baby. First of all, I didn't want to let him down. And I didn't know if I would have the strength to do it without him, because he was such a big part of it. 6 months passed, the year started, and I started having conversations with my other producer, Sabad, and she said to me, "Sis, we can do this." So we went back, got together with Sabelo. Sabelo is a writer for Kings of Joburg, and he was very excited about how he could redirect the script. Right, that not all was lost. We still have a story here. Let's just put our heads together and see how we are able to honor Show's character on the show. But the show still goes on. I still continue with the show. And we did that. And I think we've managed to come up with an exciting story that people will be excited to watch. We're excited for them to see Kings of Joburg 2. So it will be on your screens on the 27th of January. It's launching very soon. Very, very excited about this project. It was hard to do without him, but at the same time, I just had this thing that I was going to do this for my husband and for me. I needed to. It was, we believe that you don't start something and not finish it. So it was that one thing that I felt I have to finish this. Some days were harder than others. While I was wrapping up The Queen, we were also shooting Kings of Joburg. So there was just so much happening in my life. I didn't have time to think, time to breathe, time to do anything. But you'd wonder, how is this woman standing? So I think literally my first holiday was this December.
Your first holiday?
My first holiday. Since I lost my husband, this was literally my first time to just...
How was that? Did you enjoy it?
It's been weird. So we went to Dubai with the kids. It was Show's favorite holiday destination. The last holiday that we had with him was Dubai. So we kind of just wanted to trace all the things that we did with him, do everything in his memory, and also just, I suppose, to help us heal and to test, really, if we are strong enough to do the things that we used to do with him without him. It was a gamble.
Anything else we can look forward to? Just an exclusive Nyana?
Well, Kings of Joburg is hitting the screen soon, so that's exciting. I'm currently unemployed. Busy trying to create work for myself. So please, all the people that go, when I have a production, they go, but why is she acting in it? I need to work. This is why I create work for other people and for myself. But there are a few concepts that we're working on, and God willing, one or two of them will go into production this year.
What you just said is important, where people ask, but why are you starring in it as well? What is that about?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think in this country, people probably think a producer makes a lot of money. Far from the truth, guys. The money that you make is called a production markup. And if your production does not meet its budget, your production markup goes towards finishing the production. And that has happened to us a couple of times. So the acting money, that is actually your main salary, right? The production markup becomes the company's salary, because then you have all these other overheads that have to be managed by those funds. So this girl needs to work, because she can't be taking from the company. She needs to be inputting into the company, not taking. So I wish I could explain it in a simpler way, but I'm an actress who's also a producer. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business person. That does not mean I cannot act because I'm producing.
Sure. Is there a way of making it better? Maybe not easier, but better, like the entire system?
It's just management, really. It's money management. It's being able to manage your business properly. It's making sure that you're part of the value chain, because the money that comes into a production is for that. It's for the production.
And if we close up the conversation, your wish for your children, your wish for your family, your wish for yourself. You know, we literally just started the year.
Yeah.
We've been through so many difficult years in the past 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Your wish for this year?
My wish for this year is I'm working on being happy, like truly, truly happy. That's my wish for myself. And that's all encompassing, whether it's happy at work or happy at home. Just being happy and at peace and content. Gratitude for me is a big thing. I'm grateful for so much that I don't take anything for granted, anything at all. I don't take my life for granted. I know every time I wake up in the morning and I take that breath, that there has to be a reason I woke up that morning. So if I can just be happy. And I want that for my children too. I want my children to know that the world is their oyster and they can be and do whatever they want. That they have my undying support, always, that I love them to death. I want them to know that their father will always be there with them, and they do know that. And that they have to live for themselves and not even for me, not for mom. I don't want them to have to worry about me. And I know my little one worries about me a lot, endlessly. You know, I want them to know that we are okay. I want them to embrace their own lives and have their own dreams and follow that with as much passion as they can master.
May the universe meet you at your point of need.
Amen.
Thank you very much for speaking to us here on Newzroom Afrika. It was a great pleasure to be in conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.